Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Relatable Radio Hour with me, Dr. Green. Thank you so very much for joining. I'm very, very excited about tonight's interview because I'm reconnecting with someone that I've known for a very long time, back in elementary school all the way up to high school. So I'm very excited to have her here, and I'll introduce her in just a second. Tonight, we're going to talk about, the self-worth that we sometimes don't have for ourselves and how it can really affect our self-esteem. And a lot of times we don't really pay attention to some of these trials and tribulations until much later in life when you're having to face it. And then when you face it, you kind of live up to that expectation of yourself. Your potential truly starts to grow, and you really start to see what you are capable of doing and how the sky is the limit. So, in talking about this very, very, very important topic, I thought it would be great to have someone who is doing some amazing, amazing work right now and bring her to the show and just let her just kind of expand on her life and an amazing, amazing project that she's done. So I would like to welcome you all, Dr. Jeremia Van, who is right now in Korea and taking the time to speak to us. So thank you so very much, Dr. Van. How are you doing?
Hello, how you doing, Dr. Green? Well, afternoon. But of course we have good morning here.
So
But I'm
glad to have you here and taking some time. It's just crazy how that time thing is so different, in the different parts of the world. But so glad that you were able to take some time out. If you don't mind, kind of share a little bit about yourself with the audience so they can get to know you a little better.
okay. First off, thank you for having me. This is so exciting, and I'm happy for this opportunity. So I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, as you know. Both parents also from Mississippi. My mom from Jackson, like Shady Oaks area, and my dad grew up in Yazoo City. So two different perspectives on life and just bearing children, raising children, the whole nine. But my parents were married 49 years, and I came from a pretty happy household, kind of strict, I would say at times. So, but you probably remember seeing my mom. She was that mom that come on field trips and keep an eye on all the kids.
Yes.
So really wasn't a lot of room to kind of get out of pocket, if that makes sense.
Right.
Uh, Definitely grew up in the church. Went to Word of Life Church. I know they have like two different locations there now, but that is kind of the basis of my childhood, just in terms of being strict, religion playing a big part, and then just the golden rule: treat others the way that you want to be treated. So just kind of keeping that in mind. That's like the basis of kind of how I grew up. Now, growing up that way and then kind of leaving that safe haven and going out into the world. And when I say go out into the world, I
Mhm.
mean going to elementary school, going to middle school, going
Right.
to high school. It's like each one of those stages in my life was something different. Like it's almost kind of hard to explain like in this forum, but it was life changing each step. And it wasn't all bad. You can learn from every situation. And that was kind of the baseline of what got me interested in what I'm doing today.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm so glad that you brought up the golden rule thing because I can honestly say that's been something that you've always done. I think you've always treated people the way that you want to be treated. And I mean, I'm basing this all the way back to elementary, so I can really see how that really stuck with you. Like seriously, you've always been extremely pleasant and respectful and nice to people even when people, didn't really deserve it. So I really do want to applaud you for that. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the project that you are currently, or that you've completed at this point. Your own book. I do want you just to kind of, um, I don't know, pat yourself on the back for completing that. I think that's an amazing project. We're gonna dive into it a little bit more, but I wanted to ask you, like, what was your basis throughout your journey that made you want to write this book? Because I mean, I'll be honest with you, people. I've read about half of it, and I mean, I've been like just turning pages in it, But I just wondered, like, at what point in your career had you decided that you wanted to write this book?
It's funny that you say, like, at what point, because being in the military 24 years now, right? That's a lot of stuff to experience. Yes, the military offers like therapy, they offer different programs to help you like work through things, be more resilient, bounce back from combat to just everyday life to reintegrating back with your family after deployment, all these things that you deal with in the military. And I just hit a point where I wanted to be able to just kind of share some things, not all serious, but kind of more in a like a conversational piece where anybody can relate, you know. And what really touched me was just being able to give something back. So you started here, you ended up here. How did you do it? What were the challenges? At any point along the way, did you doubt yourself? Were you always confident? Like what makes you a good leader? And I think what makes good leaders is those that are able to self-examine and then package it and give it back so that
Hmm.
it can help the next generation of leaders. So that was put on my heart to just be able to tell I want to say testimony, but I don't want to go
Hmm.
too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do
But
know.
you kind of telling your testimony, you're giving your story back to the world and hoping that you can help or reach someone that may be baffling with something and they just need that one little push,
Hmm.
to get them
Yeah.
over the edge. Oh, well, that person did it and they're from this place. I know I can do it. So
Hmm.
kind of just want to uplift.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think you definitely touched it on several occasions. So tell us the name of the book, and then after that, kind of tell us a little bit about why the title of the book was so important for you to name it as such.
okay. So the name of the book is Too Humble, Too Long, Goals in Motion, a Female Soldier Story. So the name, oh my goodness. When I tell you I went back and forth on the name, but
Yeah.
the reason I said too humble too long is because kind of what you said earlier, you treat people the way that you want to be treated, but at the same time, some people take that as just you're a doormat. Like, well, she's
Mm-hmm.
never gonna push back. She's never gonna say anything to cause friction. So we can kind of treat her how we want to treat her and we can still get the job done. No, that is not right. That's not fair. And I feel like everybody should lead their lives saying what they want to say, which I absolutely love that song. Just say what you want to say. You
Hmm.
should go through life with regrets. You should be able to say and speak your piece. And how people take it is how they take it at this point, right?
Hmm.
But that was the gist of being too humble. Like, stop being a doormat. Stop letting people walk all over you. Don't let nobody push you around. You're in the military, for goodness sake.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
you lead others, and
Hmm.
others watch how you lead others.
Hmm.
Now, is my tone really loud and barking at people? No, that's never been my tone. I don't have to do that to get, my point across. And I just wanted to kind of lay that out as well in the book. Like, you don't need to cuss nobody out. You don't need to go off on people, but you can still get your point across. And no, we're no longer being quiet or silent about anything. We are saying what we want to say in an eloquent way, and we're going to make sure that it's received. So we're
Hmm.
no longer being humble in that aspect. And
Yeah.
then and then just kind of talking about the goals in motion. I think a lot of times in life, we have a plan, and then something happens, and you're like, oh, well, that wasn't part of the plan. Well, for me, growing up in a Christian household, when I got pregnant, it was like, oh Lord, the sky's falling. She
Mhm.
pregnant. She not married. You know how people in the South
Yes,
are.
yes. That
So
whole narrative, yes.
in the Bible Belt, you can't do that.
Yeah, yeah.
But you don't have to accept, oh, I'm pregnant now. I can no longer follow my dreams. Absolutely not. I have a plan. I have goals. I have a child, But now I'm going to make sure that I do this. And it's like my child was that motivation. Like, I will make it. She is going
Mm-hmm.
to make it. We are going to have a future.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of alluded to goals being set, goals being in place. Tackle this one, move to the next one. Tackle this one, move to the next one. Before you know it, you spent 24 years in the military, and you.
Mm,
So, and I started out at the rank of a private first class. So I know you probably remember Major Bill Brew and Sergeant Lowe.
absolutely.
Uh,
Yes, absolutely.
so they told me all along, "Hey, Mia, you're good at this. This is a good thing for you. You should look into it." And I'm like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if I want to do that. I just wanted to march in the parade. Like you guys got to march in the parade. I wanted to do that too.
Right.
But I had no idea what JROTC was, which is the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps in high school. And honestly, they saved my life. They pointed me on a path and they saw something in me that I really didn't see in myself and didn't realize that I too could be a leader. I too could influence the next generation, and follow my dreams. So even though, things didn't happen the way I wanted them to when I set my goals, they started to happen. And it
Mhm.
was just being consistent, staying positive, even when bad things happen. When bad things happen, you do get down on yourself, but
100%.
don't stay
Yes.
there. you
Right.
know, this is like Thanksgiving time. Like, you got to look back and actually be thankful for the journey that you've been set on. The journey that you were on and where you are now, and also where you plan to go. Goals should never stop, in my opinion.
Mhm.
You should
Mhm.
always have something that you're striving to obtain.
Yeah. I think sometimes it takes us a while to understand the concept of goals and actually setting them for ourselves, holding ourselves accountable to accomplish them. But it sounds like with you, you kind of learned it, at just the right time so that it could help propel your trajectory forever. And I guess major shout out to your JROTC instructors for seeing something in you that you didn't see that
Mhm.
also kind of helped you get to where you are today. Would you say that that was the time that you started to kind of have a different sense of yourself as it relates to your self-worth and your self-esteem? Because, with this being the topic of what we're talking about tonight, so many people struggle with, having that self-worth and that self-esteem. It holds them back sometimes. And sometimes they learn from, themselves that they are, much better than what they think of themselves, and they are able to get out of it and do amazing things. But is that when you would think that your self-esteem or your self-worth started to really come into the picture at that point?
Yes, I would definitely have to say yes. So I was very quiet at time for the most part. Little Brielle, Wynetta, Rebecca, and Kim until they came around. I was quiet. Uh,
I think you were always quiet but hilarious in your own way. Very,
yes,
very, always just been very funny. But yes, I can see the quiet part. But you say until you met other friends, you weren't as quiet, maybe, is what you're saying.
right,
Okay.
right. I felt comfortable, and I think that's also a part of it when you around other individuals and you can kind of express yourself. When you
Yeah.
learn to express yourself, and then it's received, and you see that it's being received,
Yeah.
that gives you a little boost of confidence. You're like, okay,
Hmm.
I can do this.
Hmm.
Um, but kind of growing up in the home and seeing your parents interact for over the years and everything, seeing them go to work every day, provide for you. They work really hard. I never wanted to be a burden. I'll just start with that, and I wanted to be able to forge a way where my family was okay and they didn't have to worry if I was going to make it or not. And just from talks with them and also just talks with my friends and things, I would feel down sometimes, like, man, am I even doing this right? Am I
Hmm.
going about this the right way? And then kind of being introduced to the program, to the JROTC program, it kind of took you away from everyday life, if that makes sense. Like when you're in the band, right? You know, you have your band family and then you got
Mm-hmm.
everybody else.
Yep.
That's kind
Absolutely.
of how it was. That's
Mm-hmm.
how it was at JROTC. Like we were actually building a family there. The concept of another family away from home. I was comfortable with that. And I began to see what the leaders saw in me. And that made me want to go harder. That made me want to put my best foot forward, made me want to be clear in my communication. If I don't like something, hey, I don't like that. Don't do that again. You know, like at
Mm-hmm.
first I used to struggle with it because I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I always cared more about, you know, how other people felt and how they perceive things and just kind of disregarded my own. And that kind of ties back to the book as well. Like, hey, you should come first and it's okay. You don't have to feel guilty about
Mm-hmm.
taking care of yourself first. Because in
Mm-hmm.
actuality, until you have, you know, family and kids, it is just you. But
Mm-hmm.
once though that family comes into play, then you really have to think about some things. The decisions that I'm making is going to affect everyone. So that also tied back to my self-worth. You know, how do you feel about yourself? Your children are going to see how you treat yourself. Your children are going to
Oh,
see
wow.
how you lead. Your children are going to see how other people are perceiving you because in actuality, we teach other people how to treat us.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
We do.
we have a big part in that, and that's why I believe that self-worth is so important. You have to love yourself. You have to believe in yourself. Everybody has that tiny voice that gives you those pep talks. Those talks are real, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So you have to lead with that.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace that is the biggest thing for me. Just make sure you embrace it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you are so right about that. I didn't even, I didn't think of it in the context of, you're being an example for your children. You're showing them how to be. Um, that is a huge motivator to definitely want to inject, a high self-esteem of yourself and high character, high leadership, because you want your children to follow that same trajectory. You don't want them to, be the opposite of that. So that is very important. I'm glad that you brought that up. So I could chronicle several parts of the book. I'm not going to do that because I want people to read it, but I do want you
Yeah.
just to kind of share some experiences from that JROTC time to you actually getting into the military on how you were really tested with your self-esteem and your self-worth and how are you able to get out of that and to get on the right track?
Okay. So in JROTC, one of the key things that I would do is I was the captain of our drill team. Now, the drill team is not the traditional drill team we think about,
Right.
you know, associated with the band and everything and football games and stuff like that. But we march, we compete against other schools in the area. And I think that was my first outlet to engaging with other kids that were at other schools. And just meeting them, competing against them, it was a sense of camaraderie. Like if win or lose, you made a friend,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
like, hey, Callaway, y'all want too bad this time. We're like, don't
Right.
talk. And they're like, it ain't like that. And that'll be Provine. You know, Provine and Lanier was winning everything. And, and we hated to go to this school,
Uh, okay.
but it was a good time. Like you learn another side of yourself. And then I don't know if you remember this, but we used to have rap battles. No, I don't rap anymore. But at some of these competitions with when students get bored, what do? They find another outlet. So we're waiting on scores to be released, who won this event, who placed in that category, and we would have rap battles. And it wasn't until the generation behind us came. I think it was the 2001 class, but they had a couple of rappers in there, and they're like, "Hey, Mia, come on, lay something on the track." And that was so out of character for me, but it was so fun. And I think
Yeah.
that was one of the first times I stepped, outside of the box.
Yeah.
From that point on, Major Bilbrough told us, hey, we have a couple of other events coming up. We're going to compete and we're going to go to Camp Shelby, Mississippi. I was like, what is that? What is Camp Shelby? Well, it actually is still a place, and it's in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. But all of the high schools from around the Jackson Public Schools and other areas went to Camp Shelby, Mississippi one summer. We competed, we did land navigation, we did the PT test, who could do the most push-ups, sit-ups, all that stuff. And me not thinking about it, when it was time, and they split us up in different groups. So when you got there, you didn't stay with people from Callaway. You were blended in with other groups, which I think was very good, just for team building. And we did obstacle courses. So at the end, I had met people, but I was very quiet. I didn't want to, bring too much attention to myself. At the end, they were announcing like who won and what categories. I won the most female push-ups and the most female sit-ups. Now I was slow running. Sherman, I always been a slow runner. I can run the distance though. I knew I wasn't winning that category,
Listen, I
but
understand.
I won
I
those
hate
two
running.
categories, and everybody just went crazy in my little company I was in. And it was such a good feeling. Like they were like, "Oh my goodness, man, you did it! You put us on the map." And Major Bieber and Sarlo went bananas. They said, "Now everybody know who Callaway is. Like we not a joke anymore." I was like, "What? We been a joke, but we never
Wow.
won anything. We were just having a hard time."
Yeah.
It gave us a new sense of pride,
Yeah.
And when we went back to school, we just kind of got together, we huddled and we said, hey, we're gonna do better on all competitions, and we start working towards winning more at the drill competitions. One of the things that also boosted my self-esteem being in the program was competing. I don't think I really ever had to compete until I got into JROTC and I started to compete.
Mhm.
So the next thing was just winning Miss Lt 3. That was a goal that I set as a junior, and I really wanted to compete to win, and I won. Um, Major Beer say you're a few steps closer to winning Miss JROTC, but we usually like to give that to a senior. And I was shocked. I was like, what? People like me that much? I didn't think, because I out on the tennis court where we used to practice, I would get on people, Sherman. I was like, hey, that's not right. Straighten it up. Do that column right the correct way. Like I'm out
Mhm.
there. It's a
Yeah.
different side of me on, when I'm on. So I didn't think people really liked me because it was the underclassmen. But everybody in the program votes. And I thought that was very powerful because people that I didn't know voted for me. And I was like,
Mhm.
wow. So of course our senior year, I won Miss Gerald TC. And I put that on the list too. I was like, well, I'm
Mhm.
gonna, I'm gonna go on for it. I'm gonna go for it. And I and
Mhm.
I won.
Mhm.
And it was just a rewarding feeling. So self-esteem and self-worth, they definitely started to kind of piggyback off of each other. And I know to some people it doesn't mean a lot, but it meant so much as a high school student
Right.
to get the approval of like peers and
Mhm.
underclassmen. Like that was a lot. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of students struggle with that now, just trying to get that sense of, do they even care about me or they don't? Do they
Mhm.
like me or they don't? Are
Mhm.
they the ops? Are they talk like
Yeah.
what is going on? So I think that's important in terms of just having a goal, sticking to it, and then that can carry you to the next level. And that was kind of one of the things that catapulted me into the military. I do have to tell you briefly, excuse me, Major Bilbrook told me that I should join the active army. Now, nobody else in my family that I recall, other than my grandfather, was in the military, and he was a cook. Never met my grandfather. Of course, he was gone before I got here. But Major told me, he said, go active duty army. That'll be better for you. You can see, you can travel the world. The military will house you. They give you food. They do all your medical. And I was like, yeah, I hear you. I want to travel the world. That's why I wanted to go to the military. I wanted to travel the world. I didn't want to stay, in Mississippi. Love Mississippi, but I always wanted to travel. And I was hard headed. I went to a Marine recruiter who was absolutely crazy. And it just didn't work out. I think he was more interested in my mom than me joining the Marines. So I was like, yeah, this not gonna. So then I
Mhm.
found another recruiter, which was an Army recruiter, but he was a reserve recruiter. And I figured, oh well, I guess this is kind of similar with what Major's talking about. Major's like, no, Mia, you're not listening. Go active duty army. Major don't know what he's talking about. I still went to the reserves. Nothing against the reserves, but that's where I got my start because, like, unlike my friends, they already knew they were going to college. They knew they had scholarships lined up. Not me. I don't test well, and it just didn't work out for me with the scholarships. So my mom had always preached, you got to go to college, but she didn't ever say how to get there, Sherman. So, and you know, your mama know everything. So if
Right.
mama don't tell you how to get there, you just kind of like, well, I don't know. And you got to think back to professional contacts in our community. You know, like our guidance counselors, who
Mhm.
they link us in with, actually understanding the path to college if that's the route that you know you want to go, just being able to link in with those adults and talk to them and understand what their journey looks like. The only person that took like heed to my journey was Major Bill Brew, and he was like, well, I know you want to join the military and I know you want to travel, you just need to go active army. I didn't do it, went my own route, but eventually it came back around where I got on active duty because I just it was just the way to go, right? Thanks to
Hmm.
Jackson State. So and that's kind of how I ended up going to Jackson State. It wasn't always my first choice, but it was the best decision that I could have made to prepare me for everything. And I do say that honestly, everything that came after college, just because of the instructors there, just because you had, you know, people that really cared about the students and they knew about the world that we didn't know about, that we didn't have a
Hmm.
clue about, that we were trying to tap into. So if you want to be, you know, a part of the military, I think it's important that you have like a military mentor, somebody that you can actually bounce ideas off of so that you aren't like, you know, doing it backwards. Or
Yeah.
I mean, I think and could I have done it the way he said and probably still been successful? Probably so, you know. But being hard headed, I kind of went my own way, but I still ventured back to the path that he told me about at the beginning. So,
Yeah. So it was almost like he was telling you like the end result, and you were like, nah, I kind of want to figure it out on my own. And then you kind of
yeah,
eventually went to what he recommended to you. But it still worked for you because it was like the path that you had to take for yourself.
yes,
Yeah. So, that is, there are so many parts of your journey that, seemingly just kind of had amazing impacts on you, just in reading your book as much as I've read of it. But I also know that being female in the Army is like
mm-hmm.
a completely different trajectory as well. And you've gone up the ranks. I mean, you've accomplished a lot, and I'm sure you'll share a little bit of it. But talk to us a little bit about that female perspective of being in the Army, and then I guess mainly coming from you because we've talked about having to get that self-esteem and that self-worth developed, and then you've gained some of it and you're in the military, but you're also having to deal with maybe some of the challenges being a female. Talk to us how all of that is, or how all of it was, or if it's still going on. I don't know. Just talk to us about how that looks.
Yes. First, I would like to say, just in general, I'm gonna say across the board, I feel like women are always gonna have to try harder, push further. Like we can't just be smart and make it, or we can't just be pretty and smart and make it. Like you gonna have to like roll your sleeves up. You're gonna have to get down and get into it just to show that you can make it. The what I would challenge us to think about is, am I pushing, rolling my sleeves up to do that for somebody else, to prove somebody else wrong, or am I just trying to prove it to myself?
Yeah.
So that was one thing in the beginning that I kind of struggled with. And I was angry a lot. Like I was literally angry. I was an angry lieutenant uh, because I felt like all the cards were stacked against me and I was leading with that. So I kind of at some point hit a wall where, yeah, I got in trouble, right? Just being mischievous, got in trouble. don't forge a document in the military and think somebody's not gonna find out, right? So got with the LT Mafia, that's what we call ourselves. All the lieutenants got together and was like, hey, I know you're struggling with this, but if you go about it this way, that might work out. That didn't work out, got in trouble, got hemmed up for it, but I was given another chance. I took heed to that chance, and I didn't take it as, oh, she's a female. So if she cried, they'll be like, oh, we not gonna, don't worry, it's all right. We just gonna, do a hand wave and you could get back to it. No, that man was gonna hammer me. I was actually married at the time, and we just couldn't afford to pay the rent. Now, how often do you hear people in the military say they can't pay their rent?
I,
Nobody's gonna say that.
yeah, I don't think I've heard it. I don't think
Ever
I've.
heard it? Yes. Well, Ariel was a little girl. I think she was maybe 2. But my husband at the time, he was at Ranger School. He didn't send any money home, like his half of the rent. In there crazy? Send your half of the rent, like we roommates. But he didn't send his half. I was having issues trying to live above my means as a lieutenant, not really understanding, the check, how the military pays you, not including gas, transportation, all the logistics that goes with you getting to work every day. I didn't really understand that, and nobody could kind of break that down for me. So, through trial and error, figured it out, but it also kind of birthed that plan to forge a document to just break the lease, get out the apartment, move on, move closer to base where you can afford it. And that way, you can pocket some more of your money. You can be able to live, and you don't have to live check to check. You don't have to struggle, right? It was a good idea. It backfired. and and it just kind of showed me how people were. The company commander at the time, which as a company commander, they're a captain. I was a lieutenant, a second lieutenant. But captains, usually you can go to them and get some advice, get some help, learn about other financial resources to help you. And usually it's the soldiers that have the issues, and we're trying to help the soldiers. Like I was a leader of soldiers, and here I am having, money issues. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like a humbling experience in itself. How do you teach somebody and you don't have your stuff together? Like you really have to have a moment where you self-examine. So
Mm.
my platoon sergeant was really good. He's the one that helped me out a lot. And it always goes back to those good NCOs, those non-commissioned officers. But my leader, my captain, he did not stand up for me. He did not fight for me. He let the colonel roll right over me
Wow.
like he was in a bus. And I was like, so yeah, I didn't know at the time, Dr. Gray, I didn't know if it was because I was Black, if it was because I was a woman, if it was because I was there with my daughter, husband somewhere else. I didn't know. I just felt like all the cards were stacked against me. And I met another lady that was there, and she graduated from Prairie View. And she just kind of said, hey, it's gonna be all right. Between her and my platoon sergeant, they started helping me out with my daughter. I eventually got a divorce, but I was able to kind of rebuild at that point, just get back on my feet, live, within my means, and just kind of still be in the front of my platoon and lead them. We actually went to Iraq and everything. So I couldn't go to Iraq with all these issues.
Mhm.
so I did have to see someone. I did have to get help and I guess the biggest thing is admitting when you need help. You
Oh
can't be
yeah, for
too
sure.
prideful to
Yes.
not reach out and ask for help because we don't know everything, and I think because I was the angry lieutenant, it was mainly because I was mad about decisions I had made, and I just wasn't ready to own up to them. But when I did, that's when I was able to move, to the next level, focus on the mission, get promoted, continue to go on. Do things always completely go away? No, but at least you know how to be resilient now. You know the resources that are available for you. You know how to guide other people, that may have similar issues. So I think a lot of the stuff kind of helped me to help others.
Hmm.
It is a male dominated profession, but I don't go in thinking, oh man, it's a male dominated profession. I go in like, this is my piece of the profession. You're going to respect me for who I am. You're gonna listen when I say something. Like you just gotta get that, don't play with
Mm-hmm.
me. You know, you gotta
Mm-hmm.
get that
Mm-hmm.
mentality. Because most people think you have to be a certain way or look a certain way to get your point across. You do not. You just need to be confident in who you are. When you walk in that room, it's your room. Don't care who else is in that room. It could be a general in that room. That's fine. We both put our pants on the same way. So that is a part of, just being a female and knowing, being secure in yourself, knowing yourself, and being able to kind of wear that. I did have a couple of issues with some leaders along the way, but I would say not bad experiences, but one was bad for sure. Being assaulted in Afghanistan, that was bad. That was devastating. Because being a young soldier, you look up to your leaders for help, and if the leader is the one doing something to you, then that's kind of hard. That's a hard space to be in. So you kind of spiral after that. It wasn't me. What did I cause this? What did I do? But I would say that's where that spiritual piece, you always go back to your roots. What helps you get out of the rut? What helps you believe in yourself? What helps you get to the next level? And it was tapping back into that spiritual piece. So I would say being in the military, being a female, always knowing who God is and what he does for you, that's a big part of me making it through and to each level, because without that, I think I definitely would have been a lost cause just out there,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a big piece of it. And I also want to just kind of add that for women, we care a lot about what people think. I don't know why we do, but and that kind of goes back to the too humble, too long.
Mm-hmm.
Sherman, I'm at a point where I'm tired of what people think. I don't care what people
Mm-hmm.
think anymore, because until you walk in someone's shoes,
Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't be so, judgmental of
Right.
those people. You should never judge anyone. Like your life is your life. How you're living it is how you're living it. So I feel like you have to own that and not care as much, especially being in the military, care as much as what people think. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's also a reason why I wanted to kind of release the book. Some of my military friends are just shocked. They was like, she released this and she's still in? Yes, I did. Because people need to know, I had a colonel to Teams call me yesterday. He's like one of the directors or deputy directors over here in Korea. And if we ever go to war in Korea, he would be the one, me and him would be the main two on the peninsula, and I would have to report to him. And he was just like, tell me about this too humble, too long. I said, sir, what would you like to know? He's like, I
Wow.
just read a few pages and I was like, when did she have time to write a book? I said, sir, listen, this is from this is a recap of therapy sessions and reflection. And I
Wow.
want to make sure that the next generation is able to access this and ask me questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, bounce some stuff off me, ask me
Mm-hmm.
questions. I want to help. People have poured into me, throughout the years, and the least I can do is pour, into someone else. And I want to. That is me giving back. I want to pour into the next generation, especially my kids. Like we do this on a daily. Like we do
Mm-hmm.
have two in college, one at Jackson State, one at Alcorn. So, and our 9-year-old son. So it's a constant reminder of what are you doing, for others? How are you encouraging the next person? All of these things are things that I lead with, as and I don't want to just say as a female, but those are things I care about. And some of my male peers, they think I care too much. Like
Wow.
we'll grow up through the ranks and they're like, man, I think you care. I think you thinking too much into that. I think you care too much. And I'm like, what? You can care too much? But I don't know. Maybe it's because, and Jonathan talks to me about this. He said men have a nothing box where you can just go somewhere and turn everything off and there's nothing happening. Not women. We go
Mm.
somewhere, we sit still, we're on vacation. We trying to think about how we can do this and get to the next vacation. What else can we do different on the job? You're supposed to be on vacation. Can you
Mm.
just stop and just
Just
enjoy
turn
some
off. Just turn the button off. Just turn it off.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I struggled with. I don't know when I need to turn it off. I'm always thinking, okay, I could probably go and do this better. Maybe I need to practice this brief again before I go and deliver it. What questions are they going to ask me at this brief? I want to be confident. I want to know that when I'm going in the room, I have exactly what they need. But in reality, you never know what they're going to ask you. In the general, I always ask some off the but it's okay to say, sir, let me get back to you on
Yeah,
that. I'm
that's
gonna
right.
let you do it.
Yeah,
I think that was a bad thing. Now I'm like, sir, let me get back to you. It's
right.
like instead of saying, I don't know, sir, I have no idea what you're talking about. But yes, um, I think we're watched more as women
Mm.
when the regulation changed about our hair, our nails, and it was very controversial. Like, you can't wear braids anymore, you can't wear natural styles, and then the regulation changed back and we could wear our locks and braids and natural styles. And there was, of course, targeted towards women of color. And oh my goodness, when I tell you all the beautiful locks and braids and sister lock, all the natural hairstyles that you
Hmm.
see, I think it's very empowering. And I feel like that's another way to get women of color to be in the military and actually embrace who they are. Because one thing about a profession, you don't ever want to lose who you are. You
Right.
always, want to remain true to who you are. And that's one of the key things about my journey that I want to always convey, to whoever's listening, is that don't ever forget who you are. You always want to wear that, own that, embrace that. And that also in turns empower you as a person.
Hmm. Yeah, never losing your identity, your self-identity. That's very important. I think anybody can take that, to take that to heart. And I mean, you really just expounded on a lot of things. And I really appreciate you just being so candid about it. And I'm sure that even in your knowledge and things that you've just kind of shared with us, there's probably so much more that you've shared with other women that are also in the military or just people in general, to share that knowledge with them. So I'm glad to hear that. It made me think of a question to ask. Um, when was a time when you were, a leader in the military where you really knew that you were in your element. Like you knew for a fact that, everything that you've gone through, this was your defining moment that you knew you had made the right decision as a leader.
Okay. I would have to say company command. And I know some would agree or disagree, but as a company commander, that's a captain's rank. If you remember before, I told you my company commander could have helped me, but didn't.
Right.
So when I became a company commander, my whole purpose in life was to make the right decisions by my personnel. So if someone, got in trouble with something, whether it was they got in trouble with drug use, instead of hammering them, hey, do you have a problem? Let's get you into rehab. Yeah, you're gonna have, some consequences, but the overall focus is let's get you better. Let's get you into rehab. Let's, monitor you from there, and let's just work on building you and your family back up. Instead of kicking them out the military because they have, issues with drugs. Then there were other issues where soldiers couldn't pass the PT test. They're just struggling with that. No, we're not kicking you out for that. You're gonna get out here and work out twice a day.
Hmm.
We're
Hmm.
gonna make sure we get you where you need to be so that you can pass your PT test. Now, that was the most influential time to me, being in the military. And that rank, like there's so many different ranks above and below captain, but for some reason in every movie that you watch, captain is the rank that everybody knows.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Yes, that's the rank that, or sergeant, captain and sergeant. Those are the ranks that everybody knows. And I believe because those are the most influential. Like a company commander is leading, 115 or so personnel. They're probably about 24, 25. They're very young, right? And they make decisions that affect people the rest of their lives. So that's a very, and we had my company had a really high recruiting, uh, percentage because people wanted to stay in the military. And before getting there, some people were like on the fence about it, but that was one of the goals. Make sure people want to stay in and serve. Make sure you're meeting, why they want to stay in and serve. And if they have issues, you work through those with the first sergeant. You don't just discard someone because they have an issue, because we're not perfect. Everybody has issues. What does the military have? They have all these resources to help you get them resolved. So that's another that was one of the reasons why I think that captain was probably the most influential. And I also like being an instructor at the United States Military Academy, because those are the leaders, or the young leaders that are coming through that you get to
Right.
influence,
Right.
and they're going to then go out and go straight into being an officer and leading other soldiers. So just being able to bounce ideas off of them and give them honest feedback. And me being a African American female at the United States Military Academy, it's not many of us that were there. So when you walk in front of your class, the first time I taught, I was a major. My rank was a major, right above captain. So the first time I taught, they were like, "Oh, we got a major in here." And then a couple of years later, I got promoted to lieutenant colonel, and it was like, "Oh, now we really not gonna have no fun." But if you go back and talk to my students, because depending on what the ranks were of their instructors, they either had a good time in class or they didn't have a good time in class. But
Okay.
mine was more of a conversational piece, and giving a lot more back and also teaching them what they needed to learn. So to those students, I wanted to be what Sergeant George was to me when I was at Jackson State, because between the military academy and just all the other colleges, I still think that they could benefit more from learning some of the tactics that we learn in just, like HBCUs and all the other colleges. And they focus a little bit more on like the networking piece. They do have really good summer training programs and stuff like that, but just knowing how to have emotional intelligence, work with
Mhm.
people, communicate, and just team building. I think that's something they could definitely benefit from. So that was another really good influential job, just being able to teach those cadets. And these are like senators' kids and
Wow.
people you never would really encounter. It was a good mix. I didn't have a lot of African American students. I think I may have had four in my class the whole time, and I was there 4 years. I would see them around. Of course, a lot of them on the football team,
Hmm.
basketball. But yeah, just being in the classroom though, that was very rewarding to be able to teach and give back to a generation of leaders that I will see, one day while I'm still in the military. I'll eventually run across some of those students. So I actually saw one when I came back to Korea this time to be a battalion commander. And she said, "Ma'am, you don't remember me?" And I was like, thinking, "I don't. Please tell me where we met." She said, "West Point, summer training." I was like, "Oh." And then we just went,
Yeah.
we talk a lot now. But but there's just those relationships and things
Mhm.
that you can leave with people. I think anytime you encounter someone, you just have maybe like 10, 15 seconds to leave an impression. After
Yeah.
that, it kind of goes out the window. So
Mhm.
definitely two influential jobs.
Yeah, that's amazing. Did you ever think, you know, when you were younger, you would have experienced and achieved so much to where you are right now?
No, it's funny you say that. When I was younger, it was two things. First, I wanted to be an architect because I like to draw. Nobody really knows this except my family. I like to draw, and I would just try to draw blueprints for houses and, try to envision neighborhoods. And I also wanted to, build my own house one day. Just what would it look like? What would I want in it? And then I went to school and started going to these math classes, and I was like, "Yeah, this is probably not gonna work out. Let me look into something else a
Hmm.
little bit more reasonable." And it was being a teacher. And I was like, well, you know what? Who touches my life the most? So I had to think about it. I was like, oh, it's my teachers. I had Miss Nash like in second grade. Miss Walker, like different people, different teachers, Miss Stevens, Miss Wansley. I was like, yeah, I'm probably gonna be a teacher. And then I got introduced, to another path because again, I didn't see myself doing this. I had no idea that I would be in the military, growing up because I didn't see that in my community. I saw a lot of teachers in my community, if that makes sense. So that to me seemed more obtainable. And that's another reason for like our kids, we would try to get them in different circles and show them how to network and be around different people, doctors, lawyers, psychologists, like different people, different professions, because you never know what they might take to. And if you see someone that looks like you and they're around the community or at different events and you see them out and you can engage with them, then I feel like that's a sense of hope that, oh, maybe I could do that. I want to, what Dr. Green does, I want to do that one day. That's
Mm,
what I want to do. That's who I'm following, just getting feedback from him and understanding what path he took to get there. That's what I
mhm,
want to do.
mhm,
So, but it doesn't seem too far out of reach. And I think that we're blessed to be able to kind of share that information with our kids because we just didn't know. Like, I did you know a doctor growing up? I didn't.
I
Did you
didn't either. Mm-mm.
did you know
No.
a lawyer?
Yeah.
No lawyer.
Mm-mm.
So those type of things. But you know, plenty of
Mhm.
teachers. But and I love teachers because I definitely have a deep respect for teachers. Like doing it for 4 years, I don't know how they do it for 20 plus. All right.
Right. Right.
It's rewarding, but it's a lot of
There's a
work.
lot behind it.
Yes. So I would just say being young and kind of trying to figure everything out, I wasn't sure what I really wanted to do. But I did have a couple ideas. And then when reality set in, it was like, no, you got to be more realistic. But by then you've seen some things and you've seen the Sergeant Lowe's and Sergeant Anderson and First Sergeant Weber, Major Bibber. You start to see them and you're like, I can probably do that too.
Hmm.
I'll look into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you've developed and crafted your own path so well that it will truly inspire definitely women who, have that same mentality as you have to push even further than what you've done, which has been amazing. I mean, you've had an amazing career in the military and achieved your doctorate. I mean, those are just amazing achievements that I think people would definitely be inspired behind. Um, how would you, what would you, I should probably say, what would you tell the person who is listening to this show, watching this show, that is really battling with their self-worth and their self-esteem to the point where it's getting in the way of what, life has to bring for them?
Mm, that is good. Okay. I would tell them one that if possible, therapy is okay. I know our community kind of shies away from therapy, but
Yeah.
it's okay to talk to someone on neutral grounds that will give you honest feedback. And most of the time, that feedback is just your own self. Like you are thinking ill of yourself, but you shouldn't. You're doing well. You've come a long way. You still have a ways to go. Focus on where you're trying to go, okay? And if you do need to talk to someone, just talk to someone. One of the most rewarding things that happened for me was going to therapy. I went in and I broke down and I thought this lady was gonna like help me figure out my problem. She said, um, you have all these degrees, you have a family that loves you, you're doing well in your career. What's your problem again? So it blew me out the water and she gave me an assignment. So this is what I would also say. Wherever you're at right now, I think that you should take time to write a letter to your younger self. Tell your younger self everything that you would have wanted to know at that age. Now, sometimes this is kind of overstepping because as kids, you're like, well, how much would I want to,
Right.
disclose? But just be honest with yourself. What are some things that you would have wanted to know that you feel like would have helped you make better decisions and to go farther than where you are now or where you may be now? And then get you to, that safe space of, I am okay. I am doing well. You have to build yourself up. You have to talk to yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You just have to know, and I know I should get too spiritual, but you have to know what the word says about you. Sometimes you have to go
Mhm.
back to your
Mhm.
roots. Okay, not what the world says about you, but what the word says about you and who you are and what you offer to everyone else. And I would also say, whatever it is you're offering to everyone else, make sure you're offering that to yourself first, because you have to give yourself some grace. Okay, everybody's journey and path is not the same, and that's what makes us all unique. So just take a chance to congratulate yourself on where you are, pick your head up, and just keep going. Don't stop there, because it's not the end.
I love that. I think everybody should write that letter. I think that's a great idea. Yeah, there's a lot that has changed from our adult self to our childhood self, and I think doing that gives us due diligence to let some stuff go too. So I
Yes.
really love that idea. I have one last question for you. What is one word that um, personifies who you are?
One word, I would say blessed. I know it's cliche, right?
No, never cliche to say you blessed.
I have to say blessed. That's definitely my one word, because through it all, there was a purpose there. And when you're walking in your purpose, it's definitely gonna be blessed. The people around you are blessed. The things that you touched are blessed. Like, blessed is definitely the word.
When you're
Yeah.
blessed, you are walking in your purpose. Most
Yeah.
definitely. And a lot of people don't even realize the importance of working in your purpose. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And then, of course, just kind of clarifying what you mean by that. So thank you so much. Dr. Jeremia Van, thank you so very much for being on tonight. It has been a extreme blessing for me to hear just your journey and just you providing so much of the knowledge that you've learned about yourself and sharing it with others on this platform. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you. Um, you got the book. Tell us how we can get the book, and if individuals wanted to follow you, how could they do so?
Okay. So you can get the book on AmazonKDP.com. And if you would like to follow me, I am on Facebook and Instagram, Jeremia the author. And I look forward to hearing your feedback.
And tell us again what the name of the book is.
The name of the book is Too Humble, Too Long, Goals in Motion, a female soldier's story.
And it is truly a story. I'm telling you, when you start reading, you are going to want to finish it like throughout the night. But then you got like, okay, I gotta go to sleep. I can't stay up all night and read. But you're gonna want to. You are going to want to. And I just think that it's just so amazing that you were able to take some time and actually write it. Again, that's just amazing to me that you did. And I'm just so happy and proud. And I just know that great things are gonna come for you. So I'm very appreciative of that. Very much. Just great to see that happen for you.
Thank
One last thing before we go. What's something that you're grateful for today?
I am grateful for life in general and just being able to spend that time with my family. So, family is very important to me. Whenever we move, we all move together. Whenever we speak, we all speaking in unison, and we believe, and we're big believers. And of course, we Philadelphia Eagles fans, and we just won again. So, I had to throw that in there. But that's what I'm grateful for. I'm really grateful for life and my family.
Yeah. If I could think of something today, I would definitely say I'm grateful for, I think, second chances. I'm gonna go with that. Yeah, because we all, can have a slip up here and there, but it's just the ability to make up for it. I think that's great. We sometimes forget that we have second chances in life, and you can't disregard those. They're pretty important to get another chance to get something right. So
Yes.
thank you again for joining, Doc. I really appreciate it. For everybody that's watching, make sure that you go to my webpage. Follow me on all of my social media platforms. You can watch this episode and many other episodes on YouTube. Make sure you go to my YouTube page and subscribe to the page. And come back again next week. We're going to have another amazing topic, another amazing guest. Hope you all have a great evening and have a great weekend.